This is CBC Here and Now.
Every Friday this past fishing season, this seafood plant paid out about $500,000 in wages to a big workforce. Now the plant is rubble, and those jobs are gone.
Within 3 or 4 months' time, when you will be getting ready to go to work, there is no work.
I'm Terry Roberts in St. Mary's. I'll have that story coming up.
Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. I'm Ariana Kelland, filling in for Carolyn Stokes tonight. Now to our top story. A Newfoundland and Labrador Supreme Court justice has ordered a recount in a district that was won by a Tory candidate in October's provincial election. The district was one of 3 where the election results were contested by Liberal Party candidates in the province. Mark Quinn reports.
Wow. Thank you.
Of Newfoundland and Labrador's 40 districts, the Progressive Conservative Party won a 1-seat majority of 21. Following the October 14th election, the Liberals applied for recounts in 3 districts. Their lawyers said there were inconsistencies in how ballots were counted or rejected during the election. Justice Alphonsus Fowler said he was not convinced that a recount was justified in 2 districts, but he did order a recount in the district of Topsail Paradise.
The evidentiary threshold was met in that case, so we are pleased to see that there's going to be a recount in Topsail Paradise.
Derek Bennett was the Liberal candidate and incumbent for the district of Lewisport-Twillingate. He lost by 18 votes. Bennett was clearly disappointed that his application for a recount was dismissed.
Not pleased with the result, but I respect the judge's decision.
The decision confirms that PC Mark Butt is the new MHA for Lewisport-Twillingate.
I'm happy with the result. Now I look forward to getting back to work and representing my district as soon as I'm sworn in.
A date hasn't been set for that swearing in. The Topsail Paradise recount will begin at Supreme Court on Tuesday. It's expected to take at least 2 days. If the result is overturned, the Progressive Conservative government will lose its majority. But because an independent MHA was elected Speaker, they'll still have enough votes to pass legislation. Mark Quinn, CBC News, St. John's.
Former Premier Andrew Furey has approved a request by Premier Tony Wakeham to share a confidential Liberal government document. In a letter posted on social media, Furey says Wakeham and his cabinet can now access the 2041 Churchill River Management Expert Panel report. This follows Wakeham asking for access to this document yesterday. The report helped the former government prepare for negotiations with Quebec on the Churchill Falls power deal. It was a document that was only privy to Liberals, but Furey says the details in the report will help the newly formed government fully examine the work that went into the Churchill Falls MOU. Furey is asking Wakeham not to release the document to the public. Furey says, quote, the contents, if public, could materially affect Newfoundland and Labrador's position now or decades from now. Well, the smoke has cleared following the destruction last week of a seafood processing plant in this province, but questions remain about what the future holds for this important business and a string of coastal communities in St. Mary's Bay. Here and Now's Terry Roberts reports.
It's now been more than a week since this seafood processing plant here in St. Mary's was flattened by fire, and there's still a sense of shock in this community and beyond, especially for those whose livelihoods depended on the plant.
It was really devastating to see everything gone just within a few hours.
This worker had a front row seat to the inferno.
You could hear the crackling of the fire, and all of a sudden you probably one of the propane tanks just exploding. And
now this is all that remains of a business that had revitalized the economy in St. Mary's Bay. The Daly family had invested many millions to revive this seafood factory, and this past season was a major success. More than 7 million pounds of crab was processed here. Workers also handled cod and whelk and redfish, and there was hope that lobster and pelagics would be added in the future. Every Friday, about $500,000 in wages was paid out to the employees, many of whom came from as far away as Mexico and the Philippines as temporary foreign workers.
They shared their thoughts and feelings and their way of life and their culture with us, and it's, refreshed the community, we'll say.
All the work meant people like this mother of two no longer had to drive 90 minutes to a job in St. John's.
We didn't have to be postponing Christmas and Easter and other holidays. I was able to be home with the kids.
And this woman and her husband were able to build a new house from their dual income.
It's devastating knowing that you had a check coming every week, you could do things, go places, and now that's gone.
For some unknown reason, the plant went up in flames at the height of a fierce wind and rainstorm on the evening of November 4th. Insurance investigators are still sifting through the rubble, and a dark cloud of uncertainty has settled over the region.
I think everyone's a little stressed, devastated, obviously.
The big question now, will the Daly family rebuild their big enterprise here in St. Mary's, where north of 300 people were earning a paycheck here at the height of this year's harvest? The Dalys are not commenting, but this community leader and local business owner seems to have some insight.
It looks like we're going to have a rebuild. Hopefully nothing happens between now and when they officially announce it, but it's looking positive. They never said no.
What's known for sure is that even if the Dalys decide to rebuild, 2026 will be a lost season for St. Mary's. And the mayor says the Dalys are looking at processing options in other areas for next season.
Stand by, there's a lot of announcements to come, and everybody's working together.
There's been a parade of politicians of all stripes and from all levels of government coming and going from here, trying to figure out a way to support these vulnerable workers.
When the eye is gone, we don't know where we stand.
All the foreign workers from cleanup were devastated when I showed them the video.
I heard from all of them since the plant burnt.
There have been promises of government-funded make-work projects. There's calls for an extension of EI benefits. And some, like this electrician, have found work elsewhere, though it means traveling long distances and being away for weeks. But these displaced plant workers hope this current uncertainty is temporary and that they're back with their work family as soon as possible.
We also had so many little birthday parties on lunch breaks.
Terry Roberts, CBC News, St. Mary's.
Well, today is World Day of Remembrance for road traffic victims, and at an annual event at the Confederation Building in St. John's, those who lost family members were invited to come together to call for change and share their grief and memories of their loved ones.
I'm surprised that people, after telling our stories, that it seems that people are just not listening and still continuing their driving. Negligent driving still happens every day, and every time I'm on the roadway I still see it, and I don't really know how to reach. I always say I wish I had something really profound to say, but truly, like sharing our story of the death of my child should be profound enough, but unfortunately it doesn't seem to be that way. For the first 3 years after Hannah's death, I did nothing but cry. For 3 solid years, I did nothing but cry. It took a couple of more years after that before I could really function somewhat without being that emotional. As you can see today, I'm still emotional, even 9 years after. It's something that will continue with me for the rest of my lives. There's no getting over the death of a child. Hannah was a beautiful soul, inside and out. She had a ton of friends. She loved life. She loved her family. She was a typical 18-year-old, loved makeup, loved music. She played guitar. She sang and other instruments. And she was accepted for trade school in here. And she was just waiting to get her time in here. She just loved life. She was the light of my life. She was my right hand. She's very missed.
The goal for this day, it is to remember people, but it's more to impact change. The attendance of people at this ceremony should not be family members or survivors who have been impacted by road vehicle accidents. It should be people trying to learn how to change their driving behavior, change our driving culture. They feel invincible, that this will never happen to them. I can attest that I am no one special. Well, and Shannon was someone very special, but we were regular people. A teacher, a speech pathologist with 2 wonderful daughters, a house and a dog. Just plain happy to go do our day-to-day events, and it's unfathomable, but it just changed in the blink of an eye. It's unheard of, and it does continue forever. It, like Gail had mentioned today, it sometimes is in waves and sometimes is in roars, and sometimes, and most of the times, you don't know what that day holds. Look at his smile. That kind of says everything, and that is the one thing that people say always. We miss his smile, and he was a quiet soul, gentle soul, but also had the power to just engage everybody. He's so loved and so missed in so many ways, and to describe him in a few words is not doing him justice. I hope that I just hope I'm doing him justice in conveying, to be here to try to change so somebody else doesn't have to go through what he went through and what we're all going through now.
The Quinlan brothers are seeking compensation for $500,000 in lost snow crab. The news comes a day after 4 charges under the Fish Inspection Act were dismissed. Quinlan's had been accused of moving and processing dead snow crab from their seafood processing plant in Bay de Verde. The Crown said yesterday there was no reasonable likelihood of conviction, but owner Robin Quinlan says the damage is already done.
Today is a great day. It's a great day for Quinlan Brothers. Our customers and employees have finally been vindicated of the false and misleading statements that have been made against us. We were accused of taking unwholesome product, trying to implement it into our packs to be sold under the Quinlan brand, to be distributed through the international and global seafood crab markets. And those statements, for a member of the Crown to make those statements, unfounded statements, not only to the Newfoundland public, but to the international seafood community, is a very damaging thing. Not only damaging for our company, but damaging to every stakeholder that participates in this fishery. It was unfounded and uncalled for. There's no crime here. There was nothing done wrong. And I want to say to every employee on the production floor in Quinlan's today, because since this incident, these people have asked me, Robin, what did we do wrong? What was it? Why are people coming and taking our product? We've been doing the same thing we've been doing for 40 years. And I can see the hurt and the concern and the confusion in their eyes. And I said to them, rest easy, you did nothing wrong. And today it has been acknowledged to them and to Quinlan Brothers that we have done absolutely nothing wrong. Where do we go from here? Well, first of all, we'd like to get the value of this returned to the company. As you can see, a significant amount of product that was packed by skillful employees in our plant was taken from them. That's the value. It's not necessarily just the monetary value of this particular crab that sits in that landfill in Sunnyside. It's the work that they've done to take the raw material that we're privileged to be given, transform it into a world quality Quinlan brand product. That's what we want back. And most importantly, we want to be part of a process, a constructive process, a transparent process with the provincial government to be able to develop quality seafood guidelines. My intention is to meet with the minister to outline a collaborative approach so we can take what we learned. And we've learned a lot. I've learned a lot through this process. I think the government has learned a lot. So let's take what we've learned, come around the table, and do what's right.
Now, meanwhile, the fisheries minister told CBC News this afternoon that he is willing and open to having a meeting with Robin Quinlan.
Our latest system continues to bring rain, snow, and yes, gusty winds across the province into Saturday. Your full forecast details are coming up.
A small group gathered outside of Confederation Building today, calling on the province to do more to protect the environment. More on that coming up after the break. Welcome back to Here and Now. The Joint Rescue Coordination Center says a helicopter crashed in Burgeo earlier this week. Few details are available, but luckily everyone involved was rescued. Search and rescue squadrons from Gander and Greenwood were dispatched to the site of the crash. Photos show the wreck of the helicopter in an otherwise barren, boggy area. JRCC says the passengers were transported to hospital in good condition. The incident remains under investigation. Fridays for Future, a youth-led climate group, held a protest today calling on the provincial government to wake up to climate change. Julia Israel has the story.
Tony, wake up! Tony, wake up! Wake up, Tony! Wake up, Tony!
Outside Confederation Building, a group of about 20 rallied to demand the province take more action on climate change.
They say, that they recognize it, that they know climate change is happening, but they're doing nothing to actually do something. We invest so much in oil and gas here in Newfoundland and Labrador, and the new government, the Tony Wakeham government, has no plans to diminish that. If anything, they're trying to increase it.
As long as the world has a demand for oil, we should be the ones producing it. Why wouldn't we offer the oil that we have to the rest of the world? Instead, our federal government decides to throw a cap emission on it and try to force our industry out of business.
And Tony Wakeham recently said that the wildfires have nothing to do with the investment in oil and gas.
I don't believe the two are related. We know that climate change is happening. We know we have higher temperatures, but simply walking away from oil production off our coast, I don't think that's going to have an impact on that particular situation.
You don't think that oil production and climate change are related?
Well, I think that oil production, yes, it has a carbon footprint. There are a lot of things that have a carbon footprint.
Protesters disagree and say the threat of climate change feels closer than ever.
And during the wildfire season, a lot of my friends were put into evacuation notices and all that. And last year, the wildfires felt so distant, in other provinces and stuff. But this year, it felt like it really came home, and it was so close to us that climate change is actually the consequences are starting to matter.
Members of the NDP joined protesters outside their office.
These issues are on our doorstep, and there's no excuse for denial any longer. We know there's droughts, there's floods, there's fires. All of these things are related to oil and gas extraction, and it's going to cost, not only is it going to cost people all kinds of misery and issues for people personally, but it's going to cost the province a lot of money if we don't get ahead of this thing.
Protesters spoke of climate disasters near and far, like Hurricane Melissa in Jamaica and extreme flooding and oil spills from pipeline projects in Ecuador.
Whilst being 2 days away and not being able to vote due to our distance from home, we believe it's important to share about this, not only because of the beautiful landscapes, animals, people, and forests that are in danger, but because Ecuador is a clear example of what we can see replicated all over the world. We can't wait for someone to save us from a generational duty that we have ignored for far too long.
The group demands that the province call for a state of climate emergency and take preventative measures against likely climate disasters to come. Julia Israel, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, in other news, St. John's newest fire chief can't drive and is still in elementary school. A grade 5 student took control today of the fire department for the day, all thanks to her winning a poster contest.
Hi, I'm Moshika, and I'm the fire chief for the day.
Okay, so how did you become a fire chief for a day? Tell me about the contest that you had to enter.
I made a poster about lithium-ion batteries and how to prevent fires from it. You should unplug when it's full and charge on hard surface, and never charge near water or under a pillow, and recycle old batteries safely, and use the right charger.
And why do you think that fire prevention is so important?
It's important because they save a lot of people, and they're really important because they're true heroes.
What was it like when you got on the fire truck this morning?
I have never been to any fire trucks or things like this. I was really excited. Be smart, charge safe, and stay safe.
News.
Time for a look at your latest weather forecast. Ryan Snodden in for Ashley this evening, and there's a lot to talk about, so we'll dive right in. This is the low that is working its way up into southeastern Newfoundland. Wind, rain, snow, bringing a little taste of everything as we roll through the next 24 to 36 hours. This will push its way to the northwest. And then we've got another low that we're going to be watching in the coming days. So it is, it's active. Wind warnings are in effect for the Avalon Peninsula and the Bonavista Peninsula. Here, we're talking winds 80, 90, and even, 100 kilometers per hour along parts of the coast. So it is going to be windy. That is for tonight and into Saturday. And you can see this forecast model doing a pretty good job of showing where those strongest winds will be in and around the center of this low. Could see some very strong gusts down towards the Burin Peninsula as well. It is going to be blowing up through the Bay of Exploits, easterly winds into the Northern Peninsula this evening. So it'll be rocking there. Note through the overnight into the southerly winds across the southeast parts of the island, including the Bonavista Peninsula. And then that big push of wind works its way up the coast of Labrador throughout the day on Saturday, up through Makovic and into Nain. And we've got the lighter winds, but still gusty across the island into Saturday afternoon. So let's break down the precipitation side of this system, and you can watch this low as it works its way into western parts of Newfoundland and finally out into the Gulf by Saturday morning. And it is indeed higher elevation wet snow that's going to be mixing in for especially the long-range mountains. We'll touch on that part of the story in just a moment. The rain up the coast of Labrador. Inland, we're talking accumulating snow. Churchill Falls back towards Labrador City. And by the time we get to Saturday evening, that low will have pushed its way back into northern parts of Quebec. And as we look at that snowfall outlook, we're looking at generally a slushy trace to 5 centimeters, but higher terrain areas could pick up 5 to 10 in and around the Humber Valley region up towards the Long Range Mountains. Similar story in through inland parts of Labrador. Not looking at a whole lot for Happy Valley Goose Bay, but higher terrain areas, and especially back towards Churchill Falls, could pick up maybe more like 5 to 10 centimeters. So tonight, temperatures bumping up into the 3-4 range, remaining near 2 for Corner Brook. We're near the freezing mark. Happy Valley Goose Bay to Nain, and minus 10, that cold air on the backside of the system for Labrador City. Your forecast for Saturday, southerly winds gusting to 70 kilometers per hour after those strongest winds overnight. And those southerly winds bumping temperatures up 6-7 degrees for most of the island. Cooler and cloudier towards the west, Corner Brook down through Port aux Basques near 4 degrees into the Strait as well, and unsettled in through Labrador tomorrow, obviously with that low doing its thing. It will continue to kind of fade away as we move into Sunday. Lingering showers and flurries for Labrador on Sunday. Looking quiet for Newfoundland ahead of that next low, which is going to be working its way in late day Sunday into the southwest. So a chance for a shower late day in through Port aux Basques. Increasing clouds into the afternoon for the island, but this is the day to get out and stretch your legs, enjoy, maybe hang up the Christmas lights, maybe rake some of those leaves still watching you from the front yard. You still haven't raked me yet. You can see a bit of flurry action continuing in through Labrador City. So here comes our next system. It crawls in across the island Sunday night with rain pushing in through Labrador with snow on Monday. That looks like a more substantial accumulating snow event. Rain, as we said, for the island with temperatures bumping up to 10 degrees on Monday in the east. We'll get to a similar temperature range for central Newfoundland on Monday rather. Lingering showers Tuesday and into Wednesday. The west coast, not too bad on Sunday. Clouds maybe a little bit more dominant here. And then you can see rain working its way back in Monday, showers lingering into Tuesday with a mix of flurries by Wednesday. It'll be rain mixed with snow for Monday in through Happy Valley Goose Bay and eastern parts of Labrador, mixing more so in through the southeast, maybe an accumulating snow event in through Happy Valley Goose Bay, and certainly looking at accumulating snow through western Labrador Monday and into Tuesday. That's your forecast now. Ariana, back to you.
Thanks, Ryan. Well, when Aidan Beckett walks into downtown St. John's this Sunday, he'll be walking the final paces of a 45,000-kilometer journey from one end of Canada to the other. But Beckett's arrival in St. John's has already been delayed by 4 years. Here now, Zach Gowdy has the story.
Really just came from wanting to see the country, and especially its wild areas, its communities. And originally it was going to be a road trip, and it obviously expanded and got a bit crazier from there.
By a bit crazier, Beckett means a journey of 45,000 kilometers, mostly on foot. But Beckett also biked, canoed, and kayaked his way through some of the wildest parts of this country, including the entire Trans-Canada Trail. That trail ends right here at the Mile Zero marker in downtown St. John's, and this Sunday, Beckett will be here to end his journey. It's a journey he started back in 2017, beginning by kayaking around Vancouver Island, then making his way north of the tree line to the Arctic, then crossing the Great Lakes by kayak all the way to the Atlantic Ocean. That trip took him 3 years, but just as his personal finish line was in sight, the pandemic struck.
Obviously, with the pandemic and anything, I had to stop the journey in September 2020. Just wasn't going to happen, and it just seemed like the right year to come back and pick up where I left off and finish the trail. I've been here for about 3 months now, and the Trans-Canada Trail is mostly built up on the old Newfoundland Railway. So you start in Port aux Basques and you slowly make your way to St. John's.
Of course, Beckett didn't just stick to one trail. He also traveled all the way up the Great Northern Peninsula, down to Burgeo on the island's south coast, then through the entire East Coast Trail before wrapping up the last couple hundred kilometers of the Trans-Canada Trail. A truly incredible feat, and Beckett has a worthy conclusion planned for this Sunday.
I'm going to start the day at Cape Spear, most eastern point, see the sunrise if we get one, but we'll be happy either way just to be there. And then I'm going to finish at the Mile Zero marker in downtown St. John's in front of the old Railway Museum. And that will be done probably at 11:55, which is a pretty exact time, but it's the sunrise for the West Coast. So the idea is on the last day, as the sun rises, it will illuminate more and more of the country I've walked across.
Beckett's journey has illuminated much about this country and himself. He says he plans to write a book about his experiences and settle back into a normal life. But even after 45,000 kilometers, he says there are still plenty of places in Canada that he can't wait to see. Zach Gowdy, CBC News, St. John's.
Staying with sports now, a St. John's woman just completed her 4th marathon in New York. Now she's been selected to run in Tokyo next year.
When I first started running, the idea of doing 42 kilometers straight genuinely sounded impossible to me. I would go out for 30 minutes or I try to do 5 kilometers straight and I could never finish. Today, I want to share the 3 biggest things I've learned about marathon training, but not about running. They're actually about life. I don't know how I became that person that runs marathons, but right now I am training for my 4th one. My name's Ange. I am a movement coach and a runner from St. John's, Newfoundland. So the first one is the power of starting small. Change doesn't happen overnight. The all-in approach that I was doing just was not sustainable or working for me, and it would ultimately just lead me to failure. What actually works is starting small. In running, that looked like jogging for a few minutes, then walking for a few minutes, and then gradually building up my distances and my paces. And I've actually been able to apply that to so many aspects of my life. At university, starting small meant studying for 1 chapter at a time instead of cramming everything all at once. And when I wanted to eat healthier, it started with a balanced breakfast instead of trying to overhaul my entire diet all at once. Over time, these small changes eventually lead to something way bigger. The second thing is you have to go slow to go fast. Okay, I know this sounds backwards, but running slowly actually makes you faster. Easy runs, pacing yourself, and taking days off actually give your body the rest to get stronger. I think there's a narrative in society that says if you take time off, you're lazy. If you stop going, then you're a quitter. And because of this, I used to think that taking time off or taking rest days meant that I wasn't strong enough to do the hard things. But marathon training has actually taught me that it's the exact opposite. The harder I push myself, the more my body needs to rest. And when you think about it, if you weren't working hard, you wouldn't have to take time off to rest, would you? And I think that applies to all facets of life. Give yourself permission to slow down. No matter what your goal is or what you're setting out to achieve, it's okay to go slow. And the third one, comparison is the thief of joy. There are so many days where I compare myself to other people. I'll think, I'm not as fast as those other girls, my body doesn't look like that, and much more and much worse. But through my training, I've realized that when I'm unhappy about who I am as a runner, it's never because of my pace or my body. It's because I'm comparing my pace or my body to other people. If you take the comparison out of the equation, your default state is peace. So that's where I'm actually trying to land right now. I'm working to rewire my brain so that I'm happy with who I am and not who I'm not. I've realized that life feels a lot lighter in work, in friendships, and everywhere in between when you stop comparing yourself to others and start enjoying your own journey.
From bologna and carnation milk to samosas and curries, a new Canadian entrepreneur encouraging cultural exchange. Sunday at 11:30 and Monday at 7.
A fire at a fish plant in St. Mary's has leveled the area's major employer. With the Daly Brothers plant destroyed, workers are hopeful the plant will be rebuilt. But in the meantime, the 300-plus workers are waiting.
A cloud over the community, almost. Everyone is affected by it. Even if they didn't work at the plant, they had a family member that worked there. Or, you know, even the other businesses, everyone in the community just has this cloud that's hanging over it. I think everyone's a little stressed, devastated, obviously, and just trying to support one another and see where everybody's going to go from here.
I didn't believe him at first. It seemed unimaginable. That plant's been there for 40 years. It's provided employment for not only myself, but my parents worked there and other members of the community worked there for decades. So it's something that provided, wealth for families over the years, and to see it gone is disheartening.
It was heartbreaking. The night we were in bed when we got a phone call saying the plant was on fire. So we got up right away and we went and we watched. It was heartbreaking. You could just bring tears to your eyes knowing that, what I found when I went back to work at this time with Daly's, I felt that plant to me was a different thing. We all worked together and it was more like a family setting to us. I mean, the farm workers came in as strangers to us and we ended up becoming family together because we had a lot of them work with us too on, say, on cleanup. And I don't know, to lose the plant was devastating.
It's hard because the plant was always there as like a backup. So because I work trades, I work construction, and if there was no work on the go, the plant was always there as like a safety net. I always had a place to go to work if work was unable to find. So it's a little bit stressful knowing that safety net is now gone.
Be home with the kids more often. Our kids are 10 and 12, and for their whole lives, Colton has been working away back and forth. I've been driving in and out of town for work. So it's only this last 3 years that I've been able to be home. We didn't have to be postponing Christmas and Easter and other holidays. I was able to be home with the kids. So it was really nice that, I was able to spend more time with them.
Quality of life changed. Gave you more, you had money that we didn't have before because both me and my husband worked there. So, we're taking home, a good income every week, which helped. We ended up building a new house and we done wonders. It was beautiful working down there, and to see it gone is devastating.
I feel like the community was on an upswing. It did feel like things were getting better. People were raising more money in the community, so there's more money for things to do, right? Dances and card games and stuff like that.
There's definitely some frustration there, just knowing how much better they were trying to make the plant for the next season. But I'm holding on to the hope that they will rebuild, and they'll rebuild bigger and better than before.
Well, Canada's Competition Bureau has been quietly looking into the challenges facing new grocery stores in Halifax. It's studying property controls, which are legal instruments that can block competitors from setting up stores in certain places. And while the investigation focuses on Halifax, it has relevance for the rest of Canada. Shayna Luck reports.
This storefront was once a small Sobeys, used almost daily by families who lived nearby.
It was very handy if you forgot something. You could zip up here and get it.
But in 2009, the store closed and Sobeys sold the land. It placed what's called a restrictive covenant on the property. For 20 years, the building couldn't be used as a grocery store. Neighbors feel the space has gone to waste.
It's discouraging. I think people who live in the back have had issues with garbage.
A restrictive covenant is just one type of property control. Other types are attached to commercial leases, and they stop a landlord from renting to a competitor in the same shopping plaza or within a certain area. The Competition Bureau argues both types are a problem and has demanded more information from the parent companies of Superstore and Sobeys.
It's really hard to keep track of them.
James Baxter studies property law and food systems.
The public, at least, doesn't have a very good view of, where these things might exist within the bounds of a city.
CBC checked property records from major grocery stores in Halifax. 5 Sobeys and 10 Atlantic Superstores had documents related to the lease with a landlord, sometimes banning renting to competitors in meats, fruits, vegetables, and other products, as long as the first store was operating. Sobeys' parent company, Empire, didn't comment for this story, but it objected to the Competition Bureau's investigation and went to court to try to quash it. The case was dismissed. Superstore's parent, Loblaw, said in February it would stop using restrictive covenants and get rid of property controls from its store leases in Halifax. Loblaw also did not respond to an interview request. The Competition Bureau believes more competition leads to lower prices and more innovation, but the Canadian Federation of Independent Grocers doesn't think changing property controls will affect food prices. Still, plenty of shoppers think more options would help them.
There's only 2 of us now. My kids have grown and left. And even for us, I'm spending $500 a month in groceries if I go to the regular store.
How far do you drive to come?
About an hour and 15 minutes. About, without traffic.
And it's worth it?
Oh, by far. It's always worth it.
Oh, I shop all over. You have to, right?
It's not clear how long the Competition Bureau investigation will take. As of October, it said it had drawn no conclusions of wrongdoing. Shayna Luck, CBC News, Halifax.
An ancestor of the modern alligator and crocodile has been discovered, an ancestor from 240 million years ago. Vertebrae, the lower jaw, and the pelvis were unearthed this spring. Those bones yielded this image. The reptile roamed what's now southern Brazil during the Triassic period, just before dinosaurs became dominant. The teeth indicate it was a predator. Scientists are especially interested in similarities from specimens from Tanzania. It's more evidence indicating the continents were linked in Triassic times, sharing plants and wildlife. It's Friday. That means we're going to see who's celebrating a birthday or anniversary. Happy birthday to Isabel McKinnon, who's turning 101 today. Lydia Collier from Rose Blanche celebrated her 95th birthday last Sunday. Happy birthday to Mary Lyons Hicks, celebrating her 95th birthday. Agnes Bartlett of Marysvale is celebrating her 94th birthday tomorrow. Happy 90th birthday to Edna Whalen. She's originally from Whitburn, now living in St. John's. Happy 90th birthday to Joe Barcella Brown, originally from Wesleyville, now residing in Gander. Happy 98th birthday wishes to Lottie Glavine, formerly of Bishop's Falls, currently residing at Meadow Creek Retirement Center in Paradise. Wishing Marion Dorcas Moore a wonderful 90th birthday. She celebrated on Tuesday. Maggie Short of Southbrook celebrated her 106th birthday yesterday, surrounded by family and friends, and with assistance, she is still living in her own home. Happy anniversary to Marilyn and Ivan White of CBS, formerly of Point Leamington, who celebrated their 52nd wedding anniversary on November 10th. Happy 63rd wedding anniversary to Mary and William Jordan of Harbor Grace, who will be celebrating tomorrow. Happy 53rd wedding anniversary to Max and Geraldine Stuckey from Cobb's Arm. Best wishes from family and friends. Wishing Betty and Kevin Jordan of Pooch Cove a happy 52nd wedding anniversary. They celebrated Monday. Happy anniversary to Calvin and Stella LeDrew of Twillingate, celebrating 61 years. Norman and Doreen Parsons of Gander celebrated their 59th wedding anniversary on Tuesday. Congratulations from family and friends. Congratulations to Peter and Shirley Barber of St. John's, who celebrated their 60th wedding anniversary yesterday. Happy 53rd anniversary to George and Layla Wheeler of Grand Falls, Windsor. Greetings from family and friends. Congratulations to Margaret and Tommy Carew of Cape Royal, celebrating 59 years of marriage. Happy 60th anniversary to Leonard and Irene King of Sandy Cove. Greetings from family and friends. Happy 50th wedding anniversary to John and Marie Hodder from your family and friends in Mount Pearl, St. Bernard's, and beyond. Happy 72nd wedding anniversary today to Henry and Patricia Young of Grand Falls, Windsor. Happy 60th wedding anniversary to Pat and Leo Brazel of Gander. Happy 63rd wedding anniversary to Levi and Doris Quinlan from Birchie Bay, from all of your family and friends. Happy 58th wedding anniversary to Tom and Lillian Sharp of Paradise. Happy 50th anniversary to Alma and Clifford Collins. They'll be celebrating tomorrow. Mildred and Sterling Shave of Buren are celebrating their 55th anniversary. Happy 57th anniversary to Lawrence and Joyce Abbott of Ragged Harbor. Their big day is tomorrow. What a fine-looking bunch.
Time for a look at your forecast. Ryan Snodden in for Ashley this evening. And let's start with the wind warning in effect for the Avalon, the Bonavista Peninsula. These are the best chances for cracking 100 kilometers per hour with our wind gusts tonight in from, all directions around the center of this low. But yeah, first in from the east to northeast, and then in from the south, southeast, and then the south, and then eventually we'll get into a southwesterly wind by Saturday. And you can see those strongest winds pushing their way up the Atlantic coastline into the northern peninsula and up the coast of Labrador by the time we get to Saturday afternoon, all the way up to Makkovik and Nain. And that lighter southwest wind, as I said, pushing back in across the island for Saturday as the winds will continue to ease. There's the low, and again, it is making a track right across the island, an odd track from southeast to northwest, and we don't typically see that type of a pattern. Note that wet snow is going to certainly mix in for higher terrain areas of the west part of the island. Could see some slushy accumulation there, even down towards the Corner Brook area, but it does look like it's mainly higher terrain snow. And then that messy mix rolls through Labrador as we move throughout the day on Saturday. Here's a quick look at that snowfall outlook, and you can see it's going to be in that trace to 2 centimeter range for most of us, but higher terrain areas 2 to 5, and maybe highest pockets in the 5 to 10 range for the long range mountains. Similar story. It's high terrain mostly for most of Labrador for tomorrow. Lower terrain areas, generally a slushy coating. Now, as we look at the forecast for Saturday, note those temperatures in the 6 to 7 degree range. The winds from the south gusting 50, 60, 70 kilometers per hour. We're southwesterly gusting to 40 for the west coast. And yes, the winds working their way up the coast of Labrador, as we said. There's Sunday. Quiet day overall, which is kind of nice. We'll take it. Some late day rain pushing its way into the Port aux Basques region. It's increasing clouds across the rest of the island. 5, 6 degrees here, and pretty quiet in through Labrador this weekend as well. Temperatures -2 in Lab City, near 4 in Nain. Now, let's walk you through how this will play out into the Sunday, Monday timeframe. So that first low moves away. There, the increase in clouds as we move into Sunday. And note that this rain will be pushing its way in through Sunday night. Could see some initial snow, again, mainly over higher terrain areas, Sunday night into Monday. Generally rain and wind for Monday on the island. And this does look like accumulating snow set for Labrador. So stay tuned for updates on that part of the forecast throughout the weekend. That's your forecast to now. Ariana, back to you.
Thanks so much, Ryan. And thank you so much for tuning in tonight. Have a safe and happy weekend.